Yeah, I think that whole adage of don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from, you know, like you have to do that in every area of life. Mute out some voices and focus in on the ones that you really think are going to be helpful to you, encouraging to you.
We want to empower you to make fully informed choices about your pregnancy and parenting options. Let's talk about what's next now that pregnancy has entered the chat. Welcome back to Pregnancy Has Entered the Chat. Today we have Hannah Booker on the podcast. Hannah is one of our staff registered nurses at the Pregnancy Network. Before working at the Pregnancy Network, Hannah worked as a labor and delivery nurse. Hannah's compassion for women and desire to serve translates into her passion for nursing. With her experience working in labor and delivery, she provides an invaluable perspective to the women we serve on equipping themselves for their hospital birth. Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Chloe. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm really excited. So to start, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about your background with our listeners.
Yeah, so I've been a registered nurse for almost 10 years now. It'll be 10 years in September. Before I came to the Pregnancy Network, I was in the hospital setting within women's health. I worked in labor and delivery for a while, and then I was in postpartum or mother-baby nursing. I went to nursing school at Liberty University, where I met my husband, and we've been married for almost 9 years, 9.5 years. And we have 3 children, 2 of which I delivered in the hospital setting.
Awesome. Yeah. So you have experience on both sides, which is awesome. So what should women pack for their hospital birth, and what can women expect to receive at the hospital that they can maybe leave at home?
Yeah. So women need to worry way less about this than they feel like they do. The hospital is going to provide you with all of your basic necessities. So if you did not pack a thing and you had to go to the hospital right now and deliver a baby, you would have everything you needed. So what I like to tell people is to more think about those comfort items. What are those items that you never travel without? Okay. So do you have a pillow and a blanket that you take everywhere with you? Then those are probably things you're going to want to take to the hospital so that you're most comfortable while you're there. If you are used to sleeping with some background noise, then maybe you should take a sound machine or make sure you have an app on your phone to play some white noise. It can get a little bit loud in the hospital. Some people are really bothered by, the noise in the hallway or the pump or the pump setting or the pump alarms going off around them. And so you might want to consider a sound machine. But the basic things that the hospital is going to provide for you, you will have a gown to wear. You will have hospital socks to wear with grip on them. You might want to consider bringing some comfy pajamas. If you do plan to breastfeed, I would make sure that those are pajamas that you can easily get in and out of, that are breastfeeding friendly. As far as perineal care, they are going to provide those supplies for you as well. So you are going to have your mesh panties. They sound terrible, but they are not. They're wonderful. You'll grow to love them if you don't already. They're going to provide you with your peri pads, your ice packs, your Dermaplast spray, your Tux pads, which if you don't already know what those are, they're going to be your best friends. And they're very helpful items for your healing after delivery. And so as far as your baby supplies go, they are going to provide you with your diapers and your wipes and your baby blankets. And there's honestly not much else you're going to need for baby while you're in the hospital. You might want to think about your toiletries. So are there toiletries that you just have to have? The hospital can provide you with soap and shampoo or toothpaste or, anything like that you might forget. But if you have your items that you like to use of your specific product brands and everything, go ahead and pack those. One thing you definitely want to bring, I would tell this to everyone, is an extra long charging cord for your phone. You are going to want to be able to have your phone near you, and the hospital bed might not be close enough to the wall that your 3-foot cord, even a 5-foot cord will reach. So maybe go ahead and grab a 10-foot cord
That's awesome.
to make sure that you are not stuck in the bed with your baby and you can't get to your phone because it needs to charge. And then some shoes. You want to bring some shoes to wear around your hospital room. They will give you your socks with the grippers so you don't fall, but I like to have shoes right there by the bed to slip on when you get up to walk around. And then I like to bring, this might be extra, but I like to bring a separate pair for the shower specifically. It is like being at a hotel. Other people do use that shower. It has been cleaned, but I like to have some shower shoes. And then as far as clothes for you or baby, I really think you're going to be most comfortable to wear, like I said, comfy PJs while you're there for your stay. But if you do have a cute outfit for you or for baby that y'all want to go home in, just make sure to throw those in your bags. So yeah, those are probably my top like packing items. I did want to mention here though, if you plan to breastfeed and you have gotten a breast pump through your insurance or through Medicaid and you don't know how to use that pump, bring it to the hospital with you. You are probably not going to need it while you're at the hospital. You probably won't need to be pumping then. But you will have access to a lactation consultant that can open your pump with you, go through all the parts, show you how it works, how everything connects. There's a lot of pieces in that thing if you've ever handled a breast pump. And it can get confusing. Find out what size flange fits you best, so you make sure you're using the right pieces of your pump. That's really important. And so if you have any questions about that, throw that in the car with you, because that's a great opportunity to talk with your lactation consultant about that. If you feel comfortable with your pump and you don't have any questions about it, leave it at home. If you, for whatever reason, need a pump while you're there, then you can use a hospital grade one while you're there. And if you plan to formula feed, the hospital will provide you with their basic brand of formula. Usually the hospital I worked at, it was Similac. They will provide you with your formula and your bottles that you'll need. But if you have a specific brand or type of bottle that you want to try with your baby, you should pack that. And then the only other thing I would note is if you want to bathe your baby while you're in the hospital and you have a specific type of soap that you want used, they will have, again, a generic brand that they keep at the hospital. But if you want something specific used, you should bring that for your baby.
Awesome. That was super comprehensive. I hope super helpful, because
comprehensive.
It is, because I feel like people freak out about this online. We are active on TikTok. Follow us on TikTok. But I think this is something that we see all the time, where it's like, what's packed in my hospital bag? And people are like, I don't know whether I should bring this. I didn't know whether to bring this, so I just brought it. And then all of a sudden you're in labor, pulling in like multiple suitcases to the hospital. So
I've definitely seen that.
Yeah, so
No doubt.
I think that's really awesome of someone who's had the experience on both sides, again, of just being like, you could show up just you and you would be fine.
Exactly. You don't always get to plan ahead.
Yes.
So if you go in an emergency, you're fine. You're still good. You're going to have everything you need.
So when a woman goes into labor, how does she know when she's ready to go to the hospital?
Yeah, so we have a hard and fast rule of, if you are having contractions every 5 minutes, if those contractions are lasting at least 1 minute, for at least an hour. Okay. So you start noticing some contractions. It happens, enough that you're like, okay, I'm going to start timing these a little bit. They happen once, you ignore it, happens again. Okay, well, that was kind of close. Let me start paying attention. So if you track for at least 1 hour and they are coming at least every 5 minutes, and lasting at least a minute. Now, this is a general rule though. So you could start having contractions and yours are last every 6 minutes and they're only lasting 45 seconds, but they're very consistent. Use your instinct. That it's there for a reason and you can trust it. Your medical provider also will have given you a nurse line, or they should have. If they haven't, then ask them about it. Get the nurse line phone number, put it in your phone, so that you can call the nurse line if you have any questions, and you can just call, give them, what's going on, the, background of how you're feeling, and they can advise you further. If you're kind of feeling like you might be there, but it's just kind of confusing, just call and ask. If for whatever reason you can't get a hold of that nurse line, call the labor and delivery unit of the hospital that you'll be delivering at, and they will have someone there in triage that can talk to you about that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to know. 5 minutes apart, 1 minute long for at least an hour.
And at least an hour.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And speaking of when to go to the hospital, a quick note about that is your OB provider probably will discuss this with you, but it is a great idea to pre-register at the hospital you're going to be delivering at. So what that entails is you just call up to the hospital, maybe by the beginning of your 3rd trimester, and they're just going to take all your information. They will going to, get your name, your birth date, address, your Medicaid or insurance information, just those questions that that way, when you arrive the day to deliver your baby and you potentially are already in labor, they don't have to get all that information from you.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's not the way to do it. You don't want to get there and have to be worrying about all that. And, if you got there in an emergency situation, they're going to take you and they're going to take care of you. But then at some point, they are going to have to go back and get all that information. So pre-registering at the hospital is a great idea. And then at that point, all you would do is you would arrive to the hospital, probably to a specific labor and delivery like triage unit. So it's like going to the emergency department and then they take you through like triage, except it's specifically for labor and delivery moms. So they're going to ask you a few questions about when your labor started and kind of what's been going on. And then they're going to get you to a triage room to start, monitoring your contractions and baby's heart rate. And then you'll go from there. And that's where you should pick up with Grace's episode about the stages of labor and all of that. But making that transition, getting to the hospital and getting checked in as simple as possible, just go ahead and call and pre-register. And then also your hospital, 9 times out of 10, I know the ones in our area do offer a tour. So if you've never been to that hospital or never visited a friend maybe that's given birth there, so you've never been to the labor and delivery unit, take a hospital tour and just, figure out the process of walking from the parking deck right to that unit where you'll be checking in.
That's really smart. And I'm glad you shared that, because anything to save a little bit of time or hopefully not have to answer those questions.
Hospitals are big. They can be scary.
Yeah.
And you want to know exactly where to go in that moment for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So what is the protocol for sharing your birth plan with your labor and delivery team? I know some people get nervous about it and wonder if they'll be taken seriously with their birth plan. So what's the best way to do that in a way that's helpful and respectful and all of those things?
Yeah. So here at the Pregnancy Network, we provide you with a list of questions to ask or to consider when you are choosing a medical provider. Okay. And so I would kind of just refer back to those things, just the reason that you chose the provider you did. And you want it to be someone you trust and you feel comfortable communicating with, that you feel comfortable, that is respectful of your wishes. And so hopefully you have that relationship with your provider, and then you can just start communicating that birth plan from the very first appointment, honestly. And if you don't really know what you want in your birth plan, you can kind of start shaping that with them. Maybe you don't understand all that goes into labor and delivery and what even a birth plan should include. We do have another podcast episode that y'all already did, I believe, and that was Grace's episode, which does go through making a birth plan. And I would definitely encourage our listeners to refer back to that, and that's very helpful. But the sooner you communicate your wishes to your provider, the better. They will get to know you, kind of what you hope for your birth, so that they can hopefully make that happen for you to the best of their abilities. But again, that they would be someone you trust, that at the end of it all, they're going to make sure you and your baby are safe above all else.
Yeah. That's awesome. You see that a lot where it's like the goal is always healthy mom, healthy baby, but there can also be other goals on top of that if things are going well, and you know your care team has your best interest in mind. But
they do, and they should. And you also talk through your birth plan with your support person or your partner, whoever might be with you during your labor, because you don't want them feeling lost in the dark. Like, you've got you and your provider on the same page. Y'all have talked about it. And then I kind of did this to my husband, actually. For our first child, I kind of did this to him. And I realized my husband's a nurse as well. And he took, an OB course in college, just like I did. So I was like, oh, he'll be fine. I don't have to prep him. That was not kind of me. I should have prepped him a little bit better and kind of just talk through how y'all could do that together, how you can work together through the labor, what role they can play. But most importantly, you want them to know and understand your birth plan just as well as you do. So while you're in the throes of labor, if you can't advocate for yourself in that moment, they can step in for you, even if you're completely able. But it would just be easier to not have to go that extra step and let someone else, speak on your behalf at that time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you said, whoever's coming with you, just make sure they know it, because, you may just not want to talk through your contraction and something needs to be known at that moment. Yeah. So that's awesome. So what resources are available to women in the hospital during and after birth? You mentioned a lactation consultant. Can you talk through a couple other things as well?
I am a nurse, but I'm very pro nurse, and your nurse is going to be right there at your bedside, and take advantage of that. That is, nurses that work in women's health, it's a passion for them, we love women's health. We love talking about it. We love teaching it. And so you have them there around the clock to help you. And so if you have a question and for some reason they can't help you or answer that question for you, they will get the right people there for you. But you have a 24, 48 hour period there where, say you've never changed a diaper before.
Yeah.
Some people haven't, and that's okay. Let them show you. Don't let them do it for you, because then you get home and you are like, well, crap, I just spent 24 hours where I could have been trained on this.
Yeah.
And take advantage of that. Take advantage of your nurse right there. Be like, you're swaddling that baby really well. Can you show me how to do that? And they absolutely will. You get up to go to the bathroom the first time and you're scared or, a little bit disturbed by what you see. Ask them questions, make sure you understand how to put on all the gear to help your healing. They're there to help you. And then you do have lactation services. They're around the clock. And so this is your time to get breastfeeding established with your baby, if that is what you hope to do. And so those first couple days of nursing are the most important. And so while you have lactation services there available, definitely use them, even if you have to call them every 3 to 4 hours each time you feed. Or call your nurse in, and the lactation consultant might not always be able to be there right for your feed, but your nurse is trained in that as well. Also, while you're there, your pediatrician is going to be rounding on your baby, and then your doctor is going to be rounding on you. So ask questions. When they come in the room, it might be early in the morning, but try to sit up and be engaged and see what they're doing, looking at your baby. And if something's not making sense, just ask for clarification.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because there's that wraparound care at the hospital. And the goal of that, I'm sure, is for you to feel equipped when you go home.
Exactly.
And so that's a really, really cool encouragement. Take advantage of those services.
You're going to be ready to go home, but the more equipped you feel once you get there, the smoother the whole transition is going to be.
For sure. So from an insider perspective, what advice or encouragement, similar to what we just talked about, would you give our listeners for their hospital birth?
Feeling empowered is wonderful. Knowledge is power, and it can be a great thing. However, the topic of labor and delivery is very popular if you just kind of look around. And then once you become pregnant, it becomes way more popular. Yeah, it's everywhere you look. It's all over your news feeds. So it can get very loud. You're hearing information from a lot of different sources, kind of mixed reviews, mixed messages. So my greatest advice would be to find your circle of trusted people. Okay, hopefully, like we've already talked about, hopefully that's your healthcare provider, that you found someone you can trust to ask your questions, to share your concerns with. Find a couple friends maybe who have experienced labor and delivery, and they have stories that kind of resonate with you and that you feel encouraged by. Let those be the people that kind of speak into this for you as you prepare for your labor and delivery. If you notice that you're receiving information from a source that is not initiating feelings of, positivity, but rather fear or anxiety, maybe we mute that source.
Yeah.
You can do that. You can just turn that source off. And if you do have fears that are initiated, take those fears to those trusted sources and talk through them until those change into confidence.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
For sure. Yeah, I think that whole adage of don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from,
Exactly.
You have to do that in every area of life. Mute out some voices and focus in on the ones that you really think are going to be helpful to you, encouraging to you, and especially with something as vulnerable and important as bringing your child into this world or whatever it is. So
yeah, definitely. Our bodies were made for this.
Yeah.
It's, it sounds cliche, but they were, and you cannot give birth the wrong way.
Yeah.
you really can't, there's no, you can prepare yourself and you can be as prepared as possible, but there's no one right way that it goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, just bring in as much knowledge as feels comfortable. But yeah, just try and only resonate with the confidence and the encouragement. Don't let the other sources speak into you.
Yeah. And that's something that Grace had said as well, is she was told her whole life by the women in her family. It was like, oh, we're great birthers. Like, you're going to be great. And she's like, it's a little silly, but like, I went into it thinking, oh, I'm going to be good great at this. I got this. Yeah. And so bring yourself around those people that are going to tell you, you're going to be great. Like, you've got this, because that will give you the best mindset going into it. So I've loved hearing you talk about this. You can just hear the passion that you have for it. And I know it's going to be so helpful for the people that listen to this. But what is your why for serving at the Pregnancy Network? What was your why when you were in labor and delivery? And how has that played out for you?
So like I said, I went into nursing with the goal of working in women's health. Okay. So that was my plan all along. And I was doing that. I was in the hospital setting and I was working in that environment, and that's what I wanted. I was also attending a church, though, that was a big supporter here of the Pregnancy Network. And the mission really drew me in, it's what I'm passionate about. So at the time I was in a community group with, one of my leaders was actually here on staff at TPN. And so I first just started volunteering. We were not hiring at the time. And first I wasn't volunteering in a nursing position. I just was passionate and I wanted to be involved here. So I was. And then in my own life, it kind of, the working in the hospital setting, I had just my first child at the time, but it was becoming less and less, ideal for our life for me to be working in the hospital. And so I just I had this little inkling of hope that maybe one day that y'all would be hiring nurses here again at TPN. And then that opportunity became available. And so I interviewed, and I've been here now for 3.5 years. And I love my job. Yeah. I really do.
It's awesome.
To be able to do something I'm very passionate about. I really enjoyed being in the hospital setting and working on that side of, women's health. But as I started volunteering here and learning more about TPN and the mission here, I was like, there's a whole nother world of this on the the prenatal side. And I think I want to be a part of that.
Which is so cool, because you went from kind of helping women through the end of their pregnancy, beginning of their postpartum journey, to meeting women at the very beginning of like, hey, you may not even be sure what you want to do right now, but let's talk about it. And that is such a cool thing of like getting to empower women on this side. And then also have that wisdom from the other side of saying, hey, and if you're nervous about this, I'll help you there too.
I can take you to the whole, to the end.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Wonderful. Yeah. Like that was my favorite part about my job in the hospital too, was like, having a mom who came in and she was brand new to this, maybe had no baby experience in her life, and making sure she left the hospital feeling equipped to care for her baby. And then coming to this side of it just opened a whole new world. And it's great to have the opportunity to help empower women.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was great to have you. And I'm so excited for our listeners to get to have this as a resource and our clients to get to have this as a resource. It'll just be, I know it's going to be so encouraging and so helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.